Yeah, so we're cheating a little bit so that we let the
Oh, we are.
algorithms. So we let the algorithms let people know we're on.
Oh.
So good morning, everyone. We're not starting just yet for a little bit. So how's your how did last week go for you, Warren?
Not as radical as I wanted it to be.
Oh, only because that's our subject. So I had a
No,
very busy.
I'm working on the 1% rule.
What, working 1% of the week, or
Just 1% of the week. I'm working on improving 1% at a time every day. Just something small every day, 1% at a time.
Chip away, little bits, little bits, improve a little bit, tweak this, tweak that. So, are we there yet? No, a little bit. We'll just we'll let that kick in, and so I know it doesn't sound very good for someone listening on the podcast. They may come on us and think we're mumbling, but we haven't started yet. So
we are mumbling.
So today's podcast, Facebook Live, YouTube video, is about how to create a radical change. Now, we had a little chat about it beforehand, and radical, the use of the word radical would be personal, and also we're going to keep it positive, as we're not going to talk about radical change within politics or anything like that, or any extremist things. What we're talking about is a radical change with your business, with your career, the way you train in sports and things like that. So that's sort of the area we're looking at. So how to create a radical change. So Warren, what have you done in your life that you could be classed as radical? If you need more time to think, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think that the problem is when you've done more than your fair share of radical changes in your life.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not easy to pinpoint one in particular, right?
Okay. Okay. Let me ask it a different way then. Did you find yourself in a hole, or have you found yourself in trouble and then had to dig yourself out?
I did find myself in a hole, literally.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have upset the mafia.
Sometimes you do what you have to do, eh? I mean, I go back. I've used this example many times. That I go back to when I found myself in that predicament where around 2003 somewhere, where I had nowhere to live, no job, no nothing, and I had to make radical changes in my life. It was either that, or I end up like one of the countless others that are unnamed, unmentioned, and unspoken of, that end up on the sides of the streets. And I didn't want to be one of those individuals. I wanted to make radical changes in my own life in order to create radical changes in life in general. Good, positive, radical changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was always a kind of driving force for me. And I think that inspired me to make some real radical changes in my life.
Yeah, I think we all get to a point where we all say to ourselves, look, something's got to change here. It's just whatever it is I'm doing is just not working. Okay, and that's the sort of areas we're talking about. So what I've been doing up to now hasn't worked, and it could relate to anything really, anything you're passionate about. And if something's not working, you've got to change it.
Yeah,
you can't. The old insanity thing of doing the same thing and expecting different results. I mean, it's just it could be a radical tweak. It could be something small that you need to do, but it's radical to you because you've never thought about it before. You're a little bit unsure whether it's going to work, but on the other hand, there are other people. I don't think I've ever been in that, where you have to make a complete shift, a complete radical shift, and change everything.
Everything, right? And that's what I had to do in 2003. Literally, just around that time. It just literally changed everything in my life. I had to. Yeah.
Yeah.
The previous part of my life was getting me absolutely nowhere. So.
Well, we've all been in a rut, and a rut is, as they say, is just a coffin with the ends kicked out. Okay. We've all felt confused. We've all felt fed up. We've all been chasing something in some way, and it's not worked out. We're all running around. We've all found ourselves in the cul-de-sac. You know, that turning you go into, and there's only one way, and that's the way you came in. You know, so you know, and we've all run into buffers. You know, a bit like a train does. It's out of control. We need to change it. So, let's talk in relation to sports first. What about training? Have you sort of come to a bit of a block in training and thought, I need to change this up?
I have. When you hit that proverbial plateau. I've been there. Then I've decided. Often, you make small tweaks, and this is it. Like you mentioned just now, a radical change doesn't have to be something huge. If it's just a small little tweak, and it's the same that goes with our nutrition business, is that sometimes my approach just needs a small tweak in order for me to create more impact in my message. And that's all it is. It doesn't have to be something major. Like a small tweak, a small radical change could be, instead of emailing somebody, I'm phoning somebody. And that could have a massive impact on the result factor, but it's just a small radical tweak. That's all.
Yeah.
Instead of writing down the message to somebody, I'm actually picking up a phone and phoning them, which to many people in business can be very daunting. And sometimes that's all you need as far as radical changes are concerned, is a matter of difference between writing an email or picking up a phone. So, and the same in sports, with training and sports, training for sport as well. Sometimes, you look at like football or rugby, you have your off-season training, okay? So your off-season training is more or less just maintenance training, just kind of, you're switching things up a little bit, but nothing too radical, nothing too drastic. And then just before season starts, you up the ante, and then these small little radical changes start being implemented into your training regime, your eating regime, all of these. So these are small little radical bursts of energy that gives you that change, that impetus to move forward, keep moving forward without being too daunting.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, look, it's complete madness to continue in the same way when your results have been sadly lacking, for want of a better word. So what do? Well, I would suggest you become a disruptor in your own life. You've got to disrupt things. You've got to stand on the plank, as it were, the one that has an axis in the middle, and walk along and go bang down the other side. You've got to do something a bit different, and
peaceful.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you're upsetting anyone. In fact, what I would say is that when you're doing something radical, nobody needs to know. It's only you need to know. I mean, by all means, share it with an accountability partner or coach or something and tell them what you're doing. But what I'm saying, for as far as the public are concerned, it could be that you are changing, doing something with your branding. You could change your branding, which could be absolutely radical, or it could be just, I say, a series of little tweaks. So you have to find out, our viewers, listeners, they have to find out what's going to work for them. Now, you can do it very, very quietly, or you can do it very, very loudly. I think as long as you get the results that you seek, then I think that's fantastic,
And even if things are going well for you and business is good for you, then you will still want to be looking out for opportunities where drastic tweaks can be made to improve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you see this everywhere, don't you? It's where businesses just kind of remain the same for an extended period of time, and then nothing ever changes in their services or their anything. Their price point on behind the scenes stuff never changes. It just continues on that plateau. Whereas little tweaks would literally help boost that business and bring in more bottom line. But at the end of the day, people don't make those little tweaks because they get comfortable in that cruise mode, that cruise control. They get comfortable with what they know already, and they're not identifying where little tweaks need to be made or can be made. So and those little tweaks will really literally give you little bursts of, let's say like hydrogen or bursts of methane. It just gives you a little push, that you need.
Well, I mean, I remember tweak. I thought it was radical at the time. It's not for me to say, but when I was training for you heard me talk about the story about the cross country thing. Well, I'm not going to.
Yes. Yeah.
But at the same time, I was also training for athletics. Right, I took a little bit of time off to do the cross country, but when I went back to the athletics, we had, because it was a lovely place, we were in Kent called Grosvenor Hall, and they had a grass running track. Okay, so in other words, all they did was print it on grass. Okay, it's not the best at all by any means. And what we found was when we were wearing normal footwear, it was affecting our ankles that were going over slightly and things. Mm-hmm. So we could see injury on the horizon. So we did a radical change. We ran in hobnail boots.
Okay.
Now, it sounds a bit strange, but I'll tell you what, some of the best training I've ever done. Because when you come to run on the track again, it's like running on air. your legs are so used to running with hobnail boots, I can't say the times were any good, but I tell you what, the strength was brilliant. And,
how heavy is that running on grass like that?
Oh, yeah. It's hard. But I mean, when you're younger, you do silly things like that. So couldn't do it now.
Work.
Not in a million years. But we disrupted our own training program by doing something radical. That's what we're trying to get at, and it means doing something totally different. You've got to be creative. You've got to be innovative. You've got to look at different ways of doing things. But at the end of the day, you have to make a significant shift in what you're doing. And that's what it's all about. So,
only you, the person, will know what shifts need to be made.
Absolutely.
At the same time, it doesn't mean that you're the one that needs to come up with the solution or the answer to how to do it. Because there are people that share that information as well out there. They've made their own changes in their own businesses, in their own lives, whatever that is. And you just look for the examples of people having done it successfully. And it may not be exactly like yours or mine or anyone else's for that matter. But at the end of the day, it's as different as our life experiences are. They are the same. So it's take examples and then just use those examples of other people's successes that they've used and made for their own businesses or health, whatever it is.
Yeah. But it's, look, radical change refers to the change that occurs relatively fast. Okay. Now we can tweak things and do things slowly, but you're in a rut, and they say, if you're in a hole, stop digging.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're in a rut, get out and do something now. So it has to be relatively fast to have the necessary effect. So, so can you think of any other times you've had to make a sort of revolutionary shift?
Yeah, when I got married.
That's like she threatened you.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it.
Let's not talk about marriage. I'm only joking.
We don't talk about politics here.
Oh no, not politics. No politics, no religion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm equating it to that.
Oh yeah. Well, it's definitely a religion, isn't it? So get married. Sometimes you need to be thorough and make sweeping and far-reaching switches or changes. So, and that's in your endeavor, in your project, your training, Mm-hmm. So another example would be, I'll go back to the athletics we did, was we felt, I'll tell you what normally happens is that people will they'll do their warm-up on the running track, and then they'll do, let's say, 6 200 meters with a space in between, and then they might do 2 or 3 400 meters, and we used to do 2 sessions a day. The other session would have been maybe just running, just at steady pace. And we got a little bit bored with it. So when we were talking to the coach, I said, I didn't use these words, but this is what I probably meant. We need to be radical. Okay. Radical wasn't in my vocabulary then. So we're talking when I was about 18. So
what kind of words would you have used?
We're bored. Anyway, so he said, well, I've got something for you. So I went, all right. He said, we're going to do fartlek.
Oh.
Okay. So this is one where you don't stop. You go slow, go fast, you inject pace, you slow down, and you just keep going. It's if you want something to make you ill, that's it.
You're right.
If you do it properly.
Yeah.
So that to me was radical, and that's exactly what we wanted. And it made life, although it was harder, although it made you feel ill, it's exactly what we wanted. So in business.
We did that with our rugby coach once before. Club rugby, under 21s, and we said to our coach, we need something different to do. We need to do something different. We're tired of running. So he said, okay, we're going to have a pre-season fitness test. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's do that. So same thing like you, fartleks. Okay. However, the difference was we had to down a beer on each leg.
Yeah.
We had to down a beer and then come back and then do burpees. They weren't called burpees in those days. But
What were
we
they?
used to do
Thrusts.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they were called, but they weren't burpees. But we had to do burpees, so we would do run one leg, down a beer, come back, do a burpee or number of burpees, run, down a beer. So each distance we ran, we covered. We had to down a beer thereafter. Boy, did we get sick.
Then you had some.
But
then you had some big burpees.
Yeah.
So, oh dear, I can't imagine doing that. I couldn't combine training with alcohol, but it just poles apart, aren't they? So
we did the same thing surfing one day. We had a couple of beers, decided to go surfing. That was the wrong decision. We nearly had 5 guys drown in the water that day. But yeah, so don't mix alcohol with training, folks, or business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, being radical, we have to challenge the norm. We have to challenge the regular. Now, it can be extreme, it can be drastic, and if that's what you need, go do it. But sometimes being radical helps you become more responsible, more alive, more effective, and more efficient. And that's what we want. We want results. Okay. Now, there comes a time in anyone's business, sport, or whatever, when you need to mix things up. All right. And it's to keep you alive. It's to keep you engaged. It's to stop you getting bored with the same old routine. Now, as I said to you before, it may not be visible to anybody else. There's no need to become William Wallace and stand with, all due respect to the Scots, but stand there and lift your kilt up and do something that's really outrageous that nobody's seen before. Maybe you can do it. You can do it quietly and just be just as effective. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
if not more effective, I mean, you often see that.
It depends on circumstances, obviously, but if you
see many companies that have made radical changes. I'm trying to think of the top of my head as I make this statement, but observation. Yeah, I mean, they've made many radical changes.
Apple was struggling, so they came up with a very simple message, and that was forgotten now. Oh dear, I wrote it down. It's part of our business. For those who think different, or something like that. It was
okay.
I mean, it was very impactful. Sometimes companies need to do that. And once if they get their message right, you could go on for years. And
Even big companies need to do that.
Huge companies, McDonald's, Apple, there's other ones as well.
And a radical change is. I mentioned this a couple of weeks back on one of the calls. I can't remember where. But if you look at changes that have happened over the years, I think I mentioned in one of our podcasts. If you look at a radical change that the public don't even really notice is when you buy like confectionery goods, like sweets, especially like they say a Magnum ice cream.
Yeah.
Or if you remember when Magnum ice creams came up, I mean, when a Magnum ice cream came out, it was almost as big as this book. Okay, they were huge. They really were. Now, if you look at a Magnum ice cream, they're minuscule in size compared to what they used to be.
In comparison,
in comparison to what they used to be like. But so are all the other brands. Okay, now that's a radical change, but it's so quiet. It's been done so quietly that nobody even really notices. There's a radical change. It's increased their bottom. It's increased their bottom line, hasn't it? They're not charging less, but they're giving you less.
Absolutely. And I still eat them. I've had a couple in the last week. So they are smaller. Believe me. But here's a quote for you. I don't know who wrote it. I love it. It's rock the boat without falling out of it. So in other words, by all means be radical, but don't lose yourself. Don't put yourself in trouble. By
all means get sick if the boat is rocking, but don't jump off either.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so very, very important.
Just hang on for that rodeo ride, because this is what's gonna happen when you make radical changes. You're gonna have a rodeo ride, to contend with. There's going to be something that's going to be really shifting in your life. Not all the time, but sometimes there will be when you make some radical changes, because the magnitude of the changes it warrants some kind of massive change happening in your life. So you're going to have some kind of roller coaster ride, and that's when you got to hold on. You got to just hold on for dear life and go with it, because it's happening for a reason. It's there to challenge you and test you, but it wouldn't be there if you couldn't handle it.
That's right.
A challenge or that test would not be given to you, because it is a gift. The way I look at a challenge or a test, it's a gift for us. And why is it a gift? Because it's an opportunity for us to grow and to become better at what we do and who we are. And if you give up at the first sign of difficulty, you're going to keep repeating the same pattern again. That same opportunity will be presented to you in different ways, different shapes, forms, and ways, and you're never going to be able to overcome it. So even if you miss it on the first opportunity, get on it the next time and don't let go until it's finished. So otherwise you just keep repeting over and over and over again, because radical changes are required sometimes, just necessary.
Yeah, if you're struggling during the day, I'll tell you something that's radical: putting a cold shower on the back of your neck. You know all about that. So,
I saw somebody. I don't know. I saw somebody recently on YouTube. I don't want to mention his name, but he's a celebrity of some kind on YouTube and that. And a lot of people turn to him for motivational guidance or motivation and things like that. And he made like a skit on the cold shower thing, and like kind of taking the piss out of it a little bit, taking the mickey out of the cold shower idea. And I don't know why he did that. To be honest, I have no understanding as to the basis, the reasoning behind it.
Could it have some sexual connotation?
No. He was standing in the shower, basically naked, but you couldn't see everything. Okay, but yeah, you're standing there and having a shower, just like taking the mickey out of the idea. All right. I don't know why, but because I honestly see it as that ice cold shower is just, it does so much to me. I really feel such a difference when I have an ice cold shower. So but that's a sidetrack. That's besides the point. It's a sidetrack. Yeah. But that's a radical shift sometimes.
I'll tell you what isn't a radical shift, and that's staying on the sidelines.
No, that's not.
Okay.
And you get two types of people. You get those type of people that don't want to be on the sidelines, and those type of people that do want to. They like being on the sidelines.
Yeah.
They're not going to have as many radical changes.
I remember having one season in football where I was on the sidelines near enough every week. It wasn't by choice, though. And to be fair, because I spent so much time on the sidelines, I did play every game, but coming on a little bit later,
Uh-huh.
I got club person of the year.
Personality of the year.
I actually think it was just an excuse to say sorry we kept you on the sideline. So,
Well,
but look,
a similar thing happened with me again with rugby as well. I had an injury and I couldn't play, and there was strong competition in my position. So the guys didn't want to let me like just disappear out of the picture altogether. So they brought me on as team manager. So one weekend I'm playing, and then the next weekend I'm team manager for the rest of the season.
yeah. They give you the silent message.
Yeah, shame.
But I just thought of this. Radical is reminding you that you're inspired.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah,
because you're inspired a lot of the time. Some people all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes maybe a particular day where you forget. Well, if you do something radical, it reminds you that actually you are motivated and you are inspired to get on and do it. And sometimes we need that little kick, just to go in that particular day. We're all human at the end of the day. We've all got these failings and things like that.
Yeah, we all, yeah. And if you look at throughout history, people that have had to make radical changes in their lives and how it's really propelled them to the top of their industries or their circles.
Yeah.
You look at, say, for example, Steve Jobs, okay, starting in a garage. Okay, you look at Elon Musk working with his brother, sharing a computer 24 hours a day, literally, just sharing between the two of them, working shifts on a computer, okay, to create what he now has as an empire. You've got, I look at a typical hero's journey, like let's say Les Miserables, yeah, a story of how he went to prison for stealing a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And then he made his way out. He got out of, and he set up his own life. He found a treasure, and then he created this whole new persona. He made a massively radical change in his life. He became a person that he had no idea of what that was. Think about, and that's happened how many times in history where people have no experience of being this type of person, but they look at what that is, and then they just replicate that, and they make that radical change. And they become that person in an instant because of inspiration. They are inspired to be that individual.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally agree with you. Radicalism and inspiration go hand in hand. It just depends on what you do with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we aren't referring to anything illegal.
Yeah, okay. Or untoward.
We're talking about positive.
Yeah.
Positive, progressive.
Win. Anything where there's a win-win
for everyone. Yeah, definitely. So when we're talking about radical, any direct or angry confrontation will probably get you nowhere.
True.
However, on the odd occasion, it can work. Okay. But what we must not do is let our frustration fester and not do something unique or something can be seen, if we need that. I think it's because you've also got the tempered radical, right?
Oh yeah, that's like the passive aggressive type of thing, right? Tempered
radical. Yeah, I mean but you can be radical very quietly, and I think that's what it is. So we can mold all this stuff to what we want, basically, and that's how it should be. But one thing I do know is to be successful at anything, you've got to have that fire inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And the radical part of it can just be stoking the fire.
So how do we get that fire inside of ourselves, Paul? How does the average person listen to this call?
You can't teach it. You either got it, you get it, or you don't get it.
Well,
or you never have it.
I think maybe teaching
desire. It's just desire, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't teach desire. You can only desire needs to be instilled. Okay, and it needs to be instilled by yourself. You can't have somebody instill desire in you. They can only take you to the water. They can't force you to drink. However, I do believe that you can show people
Yes.
how to get to the water.
Yeah.
Show them the path. Show them how to get there. Then what inspiration looks like, and then it's up to them at the end of the day.
I mean, I'll give you an example of that, and you know this example really, is the fact that if you're talking to someone and asking the right questions, you can identify a desire that's actually been hidden.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And once it brings it to the surface, you can help them achieve that and keep it to the forefront of their mind, so that they stay in touch with what they really want.
And it can happen. It can happen in the opposite direction as well. I've
Absolutely.
experienced it when I'm having a conversation with somebody and I'm helping them to create some more desire and inspiration in their lives. And through the course of the conversation, I become inspired myself through the words that are used. From my words or their words, but it inspires me into something as well. It's a two-way street. But very often from experience, it needs conversation, it needs dialogue for people, because they don't know where to go looking in themselves first to find that inspiration to make those radical changes in their lives. So they just need to be able to talk to somebody about it. And once they start to talk, they start to think clearer. They're not thinking internally, they're thinking clearer. They're thinking subconsciously now. And that's when this starts to come through, and then people have inspiration, because that's really what inspiration is. Inspiration is when you are connected without the blockage of thought. When you wake up in the morning, you have that first thought. That's inspiration, good or bad. It's inspiration. Okay. So
thankfully, inspirations normally are good.
Normally it's good, but you can wake up in the morning and have that initial thought come to your forefront of your mind, and it can lead you down a path of the whole day. But otherwise, you can take that and you can turn it around, so that even if it is a bad thought, you can still turn it around. You have that opportunity in that moment to do that, to take a bad thought, turn it around, and create a positive action out of that. Okay, but that's still inspiration. So inspiration is exactly that. It's when you connect. You're not thinking about something that just comes to you, and this is another great tool which I've uncovered recently. All right, a jewel, if you will, a pearl of wisdom. All right, is that, and it's something that I've known for a while, but I've just never really got it until recently. And it's like, something comes to my mind, I don't play on it. I just act on it if I can.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm able to, I act on it. I don't play on it with my head. I don't think about it. I don't analyze it. I don't nothing it. The thought comes to my mind. I leave it and I act on it if it's possible. When I act on it, another thought comes to my mind, and then that leads me on to the next one and to the next one. That's inspiration. And that's what gets you fired up. And that's when you have this fire within you that you don't need from outside. You don't need somebody else to come and tell you how to be inspired and driven to radical changes in your life. Because when you follow what feels good for you, it's something I thought, you understand what I'm saying? You have this thought, it's like, okay, get up and go to the park. Okay, I get up, I go to the park. I don't question about, who knows? I go to the park, I meet somebody there that's at the park. We have a conversation, we get talking about something, and all of a sudden these ideas start coming into my head while I'm having a conversation with this total stranger, or it could be somebody I know that just happened to bump into me at the park because I had a thought to go to the park for no given reason other than to go to the park. That's an example of how inspiration can work in you. But you've got to trust yourself to do it. You've got to give yourself the opportunity to actually do it and go with it. And then when that happens, that's when radical changes start happening in your life. And you're not even thinking about it. You're not thinking, okay, how do I do it? What's my strategy? No, you just let it go and you trust.
Yeah.
And then magic happens.
Yes. So I would ask everyone here, are you frustrated? Are you stuck? Do you need help? Are you dissatisfied with your results? Because we have two sides to our business. One is business, which are business coaches, and the other side is health and wellness. And they can be completely separate. They can be joined. So if anyone needs any help, you can ask us and we'll help you. There's no doubt about it. And
I think the most important part of both our businesses is relationships. In all honesty, it's the relationships in our business. I just went to go meet a new client now for the first time, and I sat with her for 2 hours building a relationship with her.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I don't want you to buy anything from me today. I don't want you to give me anything. We're just going to have a conversation. And we spoke for 2 hours and almost, and it was great, because that's the most important thing for me and this is the same thing with Paul and I, when we do talk to individuals, it's about the relationship, because we don't have to be best friends, but at the end of the day, if I know you, you know me, it's just so much easier to
I mean, everything. Well, most things are built on relationships. Not everything, but nearly everything. And it is how successful you are at talking to people and relating to them on the same level, which will make or break you.
Yep.
You may have to make a radical restructure of things, but it can be simple as well. The words sound a bit awe-inspiring when you say radical restructure, but actually when it comes down to what you actually have to do, as I say, it can be extremely simple to do. So
another example I can use of my history is I used to be very shy and withdrawn and in myself a lot, in my own head a lot. And I had a job as a barman, and I'd been a waiter before, and I'd been working and doing things in the hospitality industry. But I used to enjoy working as a barman because I had this barrier between me and my clients. And I could have a conversation with people regularly, and it helped me to build my confidence up, to talk to people without, being shy or thinking. But I had this barrier, which was the bar counter. So there was always this, like, they would come and they would leave and I would be there. Okay. Whereas, with a waiter, it's different. And I had time to talk to people. And then one day somebody came up to me, the Swedish guy. And up until that stage, as I said, I was a very shy person. And then he said to me, look, I like the way you carry yourself and the way you interact with your customers, and that I'd like to give you an opportunity. And the opportunity was to talk in front of school kids, high school kids, like in front of a whole school on stage, presenting a product to kids.
Yeah.
And I said, that's the change I need.
Yeah.
In my head, that was like, I was terrified. I thought, talk to kids? I've just come from being a kid, and now I've got to go back and talk to them. That's where I had the worst experiences of my life so far. It was with kids. And I just knew that I needed to make a radical change, and the opportunity was presented to me. And when I got up on stage, and one of the first presentations I ever did was to my own high school, 3,000 boys. And it was terrifying. But when I did it, man, what a relief. What an overwhelming relief, being able to stand up in front of 3,000 boys and talk and just engage, and know that it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And this is unfortunately the most important thing for many people to be aware of, is when they want to make radical changes in their lives, but they don't need it bad enough.
Yeah.
They don't desire it bad enough. They don't have enough of that intention to do it, to make a radical change. And most of that comes from fear. That stems from fear. We think we create this picture in our brain that is so unfounded. It's just, there's no basis behind the picture we put in our head, except for what we put in it. And then until one day you do it, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that wasn't so bad now. And then all of a sudden these opportunities will arise. So,
yeah.
Take it, leave it.
Sorry?
Take it or leave it.
So here's something radical. If you were talking to someone and you change the subject mid-flow, okay? Have you ever been bitten by an elephant? How about a mosquito? It's the little things in life that will bite you.
You've been
You know?
bitten by an elephant.
Yeah. And I go, what's he talking about? But, you know, and you can, if you're ever in a situation which is not maybe a little bit frightening, a little bit, you don't know what's going to happen. And I've used this type of thing. It's called, and there's a name for it. I can't remember what it's called now. Yeah, but anyway, you change the subject completely. I mean, I was in a situation, I've said it before, I was in a situation in the nightclub where I was surrounded by, I was talking to an Irish fella. He'd caused some problems earlier. The person he'd caused the problems with had made a phone call, and I just happened to be speaking to him.
I remember you saying this, telling me this.
And these 7 blokes came along. Two of them two of them went over to the Irish bloke. 5 surrounded me. He said, and they were saying to me, I knew I was in trouble. I knew it was just about to get my head battered in, you know. And I went, hang on a minute, I've got to change things up here. So I said to him, anyway, do you boys want to drink then? You know, completely changed their way of their thinking. So
you reframed it for them.
Reframing it, whatever you want to call it, and you take their mind off what they're doing. Doesn't always work, of course, but if you're in a situation where you're talking to someone in public, change the subject up. I mean, someone said to you, "Let me ask you a question. You know, have you ever been bitten by an elephant, or are you, you know, or it could be you're in business and you say." Are you married to your job, or are you open-minded? Totally throws everything, and they're thinking about that question.
Well, it's the same with. Have you ever had somebody from like a Jehovah's Witness or somebody from the church, Christian? They just walk up to you in the shopping mall or somewhere, and it's like, have you had a conversation with God recently? It's like, where's that come from? But it gets you thinking, right? It gets you thinking. It's like, hello. And and then they got your attention. Now they've grabbed your attention, and it takes the attention away from you so much, so to speak. You know, because now they're focusing on that question, and that's kind of created a stumble. It's stopped their quick thinking, you know, and they're now analyzing their limbic system. It's blocked out their limbic system.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, be radical. You be disruptive, do something different, change things up, you know, and because that's what I would do with someone who had problems prospecting people for a business. You got to change things up. You've got to do things slightly different.
Yeah, you do.
Don't keep doing the same thing, because if it's not working, it's probably never going to work for you.
For you, yeah. It may work for somebody else, but not for
that's
you.
right. It all depends. Yeah. We don't know. We don't know what's going to work. So anyway, I think we're done here. I think we've put this through the ringer, the word radical, and how to create a radical difference. So if you've got any questions, please don't be afraid to ask. And if you find this useful, send it to someone, share it, show the love, you know, help us on our journey, you know. But seriously, if you need help, give us a shout, okay? Here at successcafe.tv. So, you want to say anything before we go?
Just again, just about emphasize the sharing part. You know, I'm sure there might be somebody in your life that needs a bit of inspiration. They may need to hear a word or two about what we've spoken about, and just share this with them with a little message attached to it, so they understand the importance of listening to this, so they don't just leave it alone. Because you never know what that one little message that Paul and I may have for them could do to their lives. And maybe somebody close to you, maybe somebody you just know in business or whatever, but help them out. You know, the more you help out, the more help you get.
Absolutely. So anyway, we're off now to go about our day and be radical. So
I'm gonna go be radical and train outside now. It's like 1:45, and it's about 35 degrees outside or something ridiculous. And I'm going to go be a little bit radical and go train outside now in the heat.
Oh, just one last thing. I was just saying, when it used to rain, I used to love running in the rain. Now look outside. I'm not going out in that.
Is it raining outside now?
I
Yeah.
must buy myself an umbrella. I can't run with an umbrella, but you know. Okay, we're going. Have a great week, everyone. Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye, everybody.
See you later.
Have a
Bye.
fantastic one. See you next week.
Bye.